In the previous lecture, we studied about the Income Tax Act and the Finance Act. Now let us understand a little more about the circulars and clarifications issued by CBDT. CBDT stands for Central Board of Direct Taxes. Okay. Now, what happens is that there are certain cases when, there might be confusions. One of the cases which was there was whether the tax was to be deducted on payments for professional services to non-residents. Okay. Now, in this case, what has happened is that, Section 119 of the IT Act, of the Income Tax Act 1961, empowers CBDT to issue circulars from time to time to clarify doubts regarding the meaning and scope of various provisions of the Act. Now, we have a specific section which deals with deduction of tax from payments to residents for professional services. Now, there were certain doubts which were raised, that in case you have to withhold these taxes from payments for professional services, there may be a case where a non-resident, might be providing services to some Indian business on a one-off basis. So how does he pay taxes? And whether taxes to be deducted at all or not? So there are several other items which might come up from time to time before the income tax authorities and before the assessee. So in order to clarify these matters, what happens is that under Section 119 of the IT Act, CBDT, or the Central Board of Direct Taxes, is empowered to issue circulars from time to time to clarify doubts regarding the meaning and scope of various provisions of the Act. Now, there is one important thing which you need to understand. What this says is that you can kind of issue circulars, but only to clarify the meaning and scope of various provisions of the Income Tax Act. So basically, by means of a circular, you can't introduce new law. The law has to come from IT Act only. Okay? The law has to come from Income Tax Act. But how do you interpret this law? What is the meaning which the legislature intended? What is the scope of this particular provision can be clarified by means of circulars. Circulars are not meant to make laws. They cannot be used to make new laws. They can only be used to interpret the provisions of the Income Tax Act. Right? Now, let's say suppose these circulars are issued. Okay, so what is the purpose? Such circulars and clarifications act as guidance for income tax authorities and assessee. So any income tax authority has to be conversant of these circulars, okay, and even the assessees can take guidance from it. These are binding. Binding means mandatory upon the IT authority, but the same are not binding on the assessee or ITAT or on the courts. So once the circular has been prescribed by CBDT, the IT authority, there's a definition of this particular thing under the Income Tax Act which will basically cover your AO, CIT. These are binding on these people. So if the circular says something, the AO and CIT cannot disregard it. He has to consider it at the time of assessment. But insofar as the assessee is concerned, or for that matter, ITAT, I told you ITAT stands for Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, or courts are concerned, which could be your High Court or Supreme Court, these are not binding on them. Although they can definitely refer to the guidance there, but they can agree to disagree on these particular thing. Okay? You will learn about most of these circulars and clarifications issued by CBDT as you go through various provisions of the Income Tax Act along with us. So this journey has just started. Okay, you are going to get lots and lots and lots of lectures from us on a going forward basis.